Welcome to Wrasslin Raw!
Alright, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Look at those shoulders! Look at the delts!
Joe Giammatteo.
You can't hit a woman. You can't even hit her.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Monday Night Raw at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on March 17th, 1997. This Raw was recorded at the Onondaga War Memorial in Syracuse, New York, and features Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. They laid the pyro on extra thick at the beginning of this episode. It's kind of what it felt like. It was seared into my retinas there for the first couple seconds after things got started.
I thought Aldo Montoya was coming down.
Yeah, what a way to kick off the show that would be, right?
Montoya is war.
The Mano War.
Yeah, name fits perfectly.
They had a built-in mascot right there.
They had a built-in push for Aldo, and they didn't give it to him.
Well, there's no fucking around tonight as we go straight into our first match. The Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, defeat Crush and Savio Vega with the Nation of Domination by disqualification in 9 minutes. PG-13, fucking terrible. Just wanted to throw that out there. It's nice to see that the Nation is starting to get trimmed down. We're losing some of those no-name people that are in the background.
PG-13 was still there. What the hell are you talking
Well,
about?
they have names. That's the difference.
Crush is still there?
Crush has a name. He's been named.
Does he? Crush is an action. It's not a name.
Honey Dipper, maybe.
Honey Dipper, yeah, that's a name.
Jailbird. Well, I mean, if we could just get rid of PG-13 and Crush, we'd really be cooking with gas. But, Clarence Mason, I'm good with. Savio, I'm good with. D'Lo Brown, I will be good with. Like I said, just a lot of dead weight hanging around their necks there.
D'Lo takes a nice bump this match.
Yeah.
At the end.
Hawk and Savio Vega jumpstart things, and that's a solo match that would probably look pretty damn good. The action that they got in the ring together here looked good throughout this match. The crowd loved LOD here, and so did I. Talk about bruisers, man. They looked fucking rough doing some of this work in a very good way, in a very believable way. We went to split screen with Ahmed Johnson. He looked like Morpheus from The Matrix if Morpheus decided to wear purple vinyl instead of black. And I laughed when Hawk no-sold the pile driver from Savio Vega. He didn't even try to make that look like it stung.
I mean, with the neck and, it basically entire body like that. I mean, it's going to take more than just a pile driver to destroy it.
Savio's no sewer rat. So.
Yeah.
Right.
And the amount of chemicals probably in Hawk's bloodstream.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We got a split screen with Farouk, and he cut another strong promo against Ahmed Johnson. He was just a real condescending motherfucker in it, and it was great. We got another split screen after that, showing the Nation beating the shit out of Ahmed Johnson on Shotgun Saturday Night. Crush brought that fucking 2x4 into the ring. Just when I thought it was gone, Crush had to bring it back. And after that, we got another Cool Borders Slam of the Week, that being any one of a variety of moves from The Undertaker that were shown from last Monday night's Raw. And this time, we got additional play footage of Cool Borders, and I still don't remember it at all. I thought I should tell you guys that. We went to split screen again, this time to look at an empty locker room. I mean, Farouk was supposed to be there, but still, we wasted time with an empty locker room. And then we went to Ahmed backstage. The audio here was messed up. Ahmed was just standing there with his back turned to us, watching a monitor, but Farouk came out of nowhere to hit Ahmed with a billy club. Back in the ring, hey, that match that's going on, that we've been distracted from multiple times now. In the ring, Farouk runs out to attack the LOD just as they were setting Savio up with the Doomsday device. That draws the DQ, which also draws out Ahmed Johnson, and he was dressed like a fucking clown yet again. The officials come out to separate them, and that's the end of this. We've officially set up the Chicago street fight at WrestleMania. Joe, are you ready to buy the pay-per-view now that you've seen this match?
Well, I don't know about that, but do you remember when Ahmed Johnson told Farouk that he was overdressed last week? I think he did not take his own advice here. He was Ahmed Johnson desperately needs to talk to some of the girls in the back about what he should wear when he's not working.
He needs a stylist ASAP.
Yes. Yeah, so there's that. LOD is always great to see. The Fink announced them at 592 pounds, so I said that they are 592 pounds of pure American gas.
93 octane.
Yes. Hawk and Savio Vega, like you mentioned, they got this thing going quick, and they were fighting outside of the ring, and that was all really good. Nice preview of a street fight style that we might see at WrestleMania, so I enjoyed that. The slam of the week, I have to give a shout out to our boy Vader, because we have talked a lot of shit on him. But Undertaker, first off, is one crazy son of a bitch for doing that dive on a Monday Night Raw last week. Yeah, I mean, maybe he said, you know what, this is Raw is war. I'm going to fucking put it on the line here. And you know what, Vader maybe saved his fucking life. He caught him. So props to Vader there. We don't hear too many positive things about him. So
he also gave a good choke slam, I think, to The Undertaker in that match, too.
Yeah. So he at least deserves a free copy of Cool Borders on PlayStation for that.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, this was good. This is going to get a live crowd excited, you know, just people beating the shit out of each other. You know, that's what they want to see, especially the end with the Nation of Domination getting a beat down. And I also have to say, I mean, Animal and Hawk, they've been doing this move for a long time, but I noticed that Animal does a pretty good job with that Doomsday device of kind of grabbing the guy's feet and giving them a boost so they can hit that flip easier. I kind of noticed it here on the slow motion replay and just wanted to point that out because I thought that was just perfect.
Yeah.
Execution.
So I noticed that too. Whenever Animal got him up into that, it's almost like you could see Hawk's spidey senses tingling because he was doing something off on the side. But as soon as Animal started to set it up, Hawk was up those fucking ropes. He was getting ready to set it up. He was on top of it.
You could see Animal kind of going for the feet as he's kind of struggling to hold the guy up and give him that boost to get that flip, which is pretty cool.
You know, outside of Crush being involved here, it was a pretty good match for the crowd here. Legion of Doom comes out and they got the crowd on their feet. And when Hawk and Savio were in there, things looked really good. Obviously, when Crush got in there, it was going to slow down. Unfortunately, we did kind of hit that old habit of everything we can to distract from the match, though. We go to so many cut screens and split screens and going to this guy and that guy to cut a promo. I think we cut away from the match a good 4 or 5 times before it ends. But the action that we got in the ring, I do agree, I thought did a good job of setting up this street fight. The backstage stuff with Farouk, when he comes in and starts laying that billy club into Ahmed, I thought he was really hitting him with some attitude with that. You know, he was swinging at him. And thankfully, at the end here, when Ahmed came in, it looks like someone finally taught him how to swing that 2x4 because he broke that fucker over one of the worthless PG-13's back, and he actually swung it with some authority. Soon as I saw Ahmed running down, I was like, no, why'd they give him back the 2x4? But thankfully for once, he swung it. D'Lo Brown, after the match, taking the Doomsday device. I think we all picked up on that mid-air flip that D'Lo was given with the boost from the Legion there. It looked great.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the best Doomsday devices we've seen in the few times they've been back. It looked really good. And to be honest, I thought a pretty good way, you know, all this pandemonium in the ring of setting up the pay-per-view. We were doing a lot of complaining last week about the lack of setup, but I thought this match did its job this week.
Well, you know, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but at the same time, well, you know what? We'll get to that later on here in the show because there's quite a few instances here that are going to line up with what we're talking about here. Tangentially related, did you know that the Slammies are going to be at WrestleMania weekend?
What?
This coming week.
The Slammies?
Yeah, it's like a week away.
Huh.
Just
Never
in case
heard of
anyone
them.
was wondering. We got back to commentary after that, where JR gave us a rumor that something important is happening with the steel cage match between Bret Hart and Sycho Sid later on. Stay tuned for more details on that. Jerry Lawler tells us there's a rumor that Shawn Michaels will be here tonight. And with that
goody.
With that news, Vince McMahon can't help but get an enormous shit-eating grin on his face.
I don't think I have ever seen a more legit smile on that man's face.
So pleased.
You will later.
He fucking lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yes, he did. Stone Cold Steve Austin is here tonight as well, but that's not a rumor, that's a fact. Joe, this was a short mid-match segment, so I'll just briefly ask, if we're laying down money right now, do you think Shawn will come out on crutches, in a wheelchair, or walking like there's nothing wrong with him at all?
Full strip tease mode. Nothing wrong. But I want to say about this rumors about the steel cage match, whatever, this came off as very stupid to me because I think most fans are smart to Vince being the owner / booker now at this point. So, yeah, that was just stupid.
Yeah, and not to mention, I'm going to ruin the surprise. When Monsoon shows up, he's just going to tell us that things are going forward as usual.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's going to be for the title like they already told us.
Yeah.
So that part I agree, just kind of stupid and unnecessary. As far as Shawn Michaels goes, I could only assume he's going to be wheeled out on a hospital bed. Yeah. Because I'm to believe that his career is over, right? So
yeah, that's what we've been told.
Yeah. My money is hospital bed.
Okay. Personally, I'm throwing it down on iron lung. They're going to wheel him out in an iron lung. It's just going to be his head poking out.
He's going to be singing Branded.
Turn for the worse. Branded. Yeah. All right. Let's keep it going here to our next match. Hunter Hearst Helmsley with Chyna defeats Flash Funk by pinfall, 5 minutes and 47 seconds. Chyna is in the war zone, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, your eyes can't help but be drawn to her. What a fucking presence. I'm going to keep on saying that every time it jumps out to me because I don't want to say stunning necessarily, but it's that sensation that you get when it's just, you're almost shocked at the presence of a person. Like, not quite
She's a spectacle.
A spectacle, yes, that's exactly it. Thank you. Speaking of, Flash Funk got pyro. A hell of a lot of pyro. The Funkettes, they looked fantastic, as they always do. We also got the news that Owen Hart was not nominated for a Slammy this year, which is, I think, a fucking travesty. I'm hoping that there will be some change at some point there so that he can call himself a 2-time Slammy winner. We're not even through the entrances here. Flash Funk's entrance took way too long, and good God, I hate Flash Funk's fucking ring gear. I'm over it. I loved Flash Funk and Chyna staring each other down. That was pretty cool. And we learned here that Hunter Hearst Helmsley will be taking on Goldust at WrestleMania. This is the first time we've heard that, right, guys?
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, better late than never,
Shocking.
I suppose.
Anything can happen.
I mean, obviously this feud has been happening for a while, but yeah, first talk of an actual match at WrestleMania.
Yep, a week away, folks. We got to the finish with Chyna being a distraction, and once again we had officials flooding the ring to pull Chyna and Hunter off of Flash Funk's beaten body. Ryan, I thought this was a decent enough match, nothing to write home about, but it did a great job of further exposing us to Chyna. We're seeming to get a little more from her every week. What did you think of this?
Yeah, I'd agree. It was kind of short, well, except for Flash's entrance. They must have really told him, take your time, because we have a lot of storylines we need to talk about on your way down, because they didn't focus on him at all. They just kind of talked about everything that's going to happen at WrestleMania. But once the match actually started, I didn't think Funk and Hunter looked bad together at all. As you said, nothing to write home about, but they worked pretty fluid with each other. Nice reverses. My favorite move was Hunter. He reversed a high-risk maneuver by Flash, but it was like it almost got botched, but Hunter was able to like stabilize it and then slam him back on his back, and it ended up looking all right, but just, you know. And then this end where, you knew Chyna was going to get involved, and of course she does, to help out Hunter win this match. But then she holds Flash down, or up, or whatever you want to say, for Hunter Hunter to continue beating on him. And for the first time, I started to get the DX flashes, because up until this point, we didn't really get stuff like this from Hunter. But this really got me in the mood for some DX. And then the moment I thought that, they cut to Shawn Michaels walking in the building. All I could think at the end of this was the coming of DX.
And the coming of Vince.
All over the table.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Vince, he introduces the name Chyna to us tonight.
Yes.
So she is officially named Chyna, and that is pretty much where my eyes were this entire match. I mean, she is just, like you said, quite the spectacle. Not only just... Unlike Ahmed Johnson, Chyna's attire that she has on it makes it great as well. Yeah. I mean, first off, her body is quite the specimen. And then she's wearing like this sports bra type top that shows off the muscle. She's got tight pants on with combat boots. I mean, it's a great look for her, especially in 1997.
Yeah.
So it just really completes the, I guess, gimmick, for lack of a better word there. But yeah, this match, to me, it wasn't really, it was just your run-of-the-mill match. It wasn't anything great. And Chyna's ring apron distraction is already better and more believable than any other manager that we've ever seen. Because normally they're just like, they get up there and they're like yelling at the referee, but she is like more of a physical presence to actually have the referee be legitimately worried about what she's going to do.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great point. I never really thought of it that way. I'm going to try to keep that in mind from now on, watching her, because now that you say it that way, I'm trying to think of any other managers that might, and I really can't. I keep on wanting to say Harvey Whippleman with Bertha Faye, but I don't think that's right.
Well, we got to see handsome Harvey get tossed again here tonight by Chyna.
So Ryan alluded to this here in his stuff, but right after this, we got Shawn Michaels walking into the arena.
Did you say walking?
As if he was never really injured at all.
Wow.
Yeah, not a limp to be seen.
Vince McMahon loses
doctors.
His shit all over that. Oh my goodness. And that's it. That's all that was in this mid-match segment here. Ryan, just how surprised were you to see that Shawn Michaels was walking without any kind of aid or device?
Flabbergasted. I said I thought he was coming out on a hospital bed. So the fact that he has no limp just really speaks to the miracle worker that Dr. Andrews is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm more surprised that we actually saw what I thought was a smile on his face, too.
Oh, yeah. Must have found that wherever he was at.
Well, maybe he knew what the match was coming up next here. That made him smile.
The death of a tax bill?
They're going to have to follow me, those little bastards. All right, let's get this over with. Our next match. Mascarita Sagrada Jr. and Mini Goldust defeat Mini Mankind and Mini Vader by pinfall in 2 minutes and 57 seconds. Rather than entrances here, we got footage of The Undertaker in full Hellraiser garb presenting something to New Jersey Governor Christy Whitman for some kind of tax bill that will apparently allow the WWF to return to New Jersey because they couldn't be there before, I guess. I didn't really understand that part of things.
Not without paying very high taxes.
Okay.
So now they've been relieved of that.
So they could have went, they just refused to pay the taxes.
Yeah, because if you remember, like, a couple of those early WrestleManias were at, like, Trump's Atlantic City hotels. So they had been there before, but yeah, this sounds like it's them not having to pay those high taxes now through the Athletic Commission or whatever.
I just got a good laugh that the governor of New Jersey had to sit there through a press conference with Undertaker in full gimmick gear standing next to her.
And he even kayfabed it too. Whenever she makes reference to him about like watching wrestling with her son, and her son's a big fan of Undertaker, she like gestures at him, my son is a fan of yours. And he just does that solemn bow. That's it.
She probably said her favorite wrestlers were Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, and they had to cut that out.
My good friend Terry. All right. That whole conversation just now, 10 times more interesting than what this match was. I wish we could leave it at this whole New Jersey tax bill thing, but we can't because we did get entrances for Mini Goldust and Mascarita Sagrada Jr., who, by the way, looked like a mini white Power Ranger.
That's what I have him noted as. I didn't even have his name. I just put mini white Power Ranger.
That's all I'm going to say. I fucking refuse to discuss this match. I mean, you guys go for it if you want. But I will say that after the bell, little Mascarita Sagrada Jr. did a dive off of the top of the ramp onto Mini Vader. It looked pretty crazy. I mean, I know he's small and he doesn't have a lot of mass. He can get himself moving pretty quickly through the air, but he almost looked like somebody launched him. That guy got some great distance, so I'll give him a little bit of credit for that. And that's it for me on this. Joe, what did you have on this?
Well, I mean, this was meant to be taken seriously. I don't understand what this was, really. I don't understand why we had mini versions of actual wrestlers. Like, why didn't we just have mini? Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, 83 weeks.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it. We take one step forward and we take 2 steps back here.
Yep.
I can't give any words to defend this. I mean, it was just as ridiculous as you would think. And yeah, the question to be asked is why? The only thing I could think of was they really wanted to rub it in the governor's face for giving them anything to get back in there. They were like, really? You're going to give us a tax break to allow us back in New Jersey?
Yeah.
Here's how we thank you with this fucking circus show. That is what we're going to give you. This joke match, you dipshit.
This is what you're treating the citizens to, Governor.
Right. I mean, I'm with you, Bartlett. That dive and flip off of the ramp at the end was somewhat impressive, but this entire segment was just completely unnecessary.
Yeah, unnecessary, and like I said before, zero explanation. Like, I'm assuming we are meant to at least take Mankind somewhat seriously. They've gone to pretty big lengths to make us really believe the whole Mankind thing, right? I mean, boiler rooms, rats, graveyards, you know, he's, as far as effort for the gimmick goes, he's at Undertaker level. Mm-hmm. But somehow there's a mini version now. Where'd that come from?
And I will say Mini Vader probably moves better than real Vader at this point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Did you see him running up the ramp once the match was over so that he could get in position to be thrown off?
All right. He sells better. I mean, he's just all around better than Vader at this point. So I'll give Mini Vader credit for that.
So this is a serious question. Do you guys think that these minis were maybe part, like the final part of that Lucha Libre crossover that they were doing?
Probably, because I think they all looked like they were probably from AAA.
I mean, the one named guy is definitely of Hispanic descent, so, I mean, I don't know. I
can't answer. I have no fucking clue what this was.
Okay, well, let's move it. You know what? Something more interesting and something that might surprise you. Did you know that WrestleMania is a week away?
That's what I'm being told.
Well, we're going to get a video package about it this week, right now. We got another replay of the Tope Suicida, and then backstage to Gorilla Monsoon. He's had some audio feedback problems there. He's going to update us on the Steel Cage match tonight. The Steel Cage match title, or will definitely be for the title, so nothing really changes there. You know, this whole thing just kind of felt really cruddy and not exciting at all, especially having this title match the week before WrestleMania. After a brief commercial break, we came back to Kevin Oh My God Kelly in the ring and Bret the Hitman Hart on the entryway. Bret was coming out for an in-ring interview. Kevin Kelly did a fantastic job teeing this up for Bret. Even with a little verbal stutter he had, just the smallest of things, he still sounded freaking amazing. I love Kevin Kelly. Bret does a pretty good job of laying out his case and even gives us the new WWF motto, which is, "You scratch my back and I'll stab yours." I popped hard for that. And really, overall, this was a great promo, but Vince McMahon does accurately note that there was a bit of a checkered response from the live crowd. Not too many people really getting behind Bret here. Immediately following that was some cartoon music and the tagline, "High-powered WWF marketing meeting 11:07 p.m." set on a photo of WWF's offices at Titan Tower. JR was there selling black hats. Finkel was there selling a VHS of Finkel's greatest announcements. Vince McMahon was selling an all-in-one toupee and headset, and then we got those two fans, Greg and Alan, or whatever the fuck their names are, with WrestleMania hockey jerseys. First time we've seen WrestleMania merch. Before we move on, Joe, what did you think of Gorilla Monsoon's update, Bret Hart's promo, and that almost billionaire Ted-esque hockey jersey commercial?
Well, the Gorilla Monsoon update it's just what Ryan said. It's what we've known this whole fucking time, is that this match tonight is for the title. So I'm not sure what the purpose of that was, or what the purpose of Vince making up news about rumors about the match earlier. I don't know.
That's the attempt at making the steak sizzle a little louder.
Sure. But speaking of a sizzling steak, Kevin, oh my God, Kelly with Bret Hart. So we hear Bret's music, and I'm not kidding you guys. I was actually worried that it would be a mini Bret Hart and not the real. I was scarred from that.
That's a justifiable worry.
Yeah, but it is the Bret Hart. He comes out, the Hitman, and has a pretty nice interview here. I don't think there was anything really fantastic about this interview, but Bret did a really good job of storytelling during this interview. It wasn't just nonsensical yelling into the microphone like a Vader or a Sycho Sid or, those guys. He's actually talking about what has happened to him recently, setting up something for later. And you scratch my back and I'll stab yours. Bret, you have no idea how true those words will be in November. That marketing commercial, whatever the hell that was absolutely terrible.
The Monsoon thing, I already touched on that. It was worthless. Bret Hart's interview, I enjoyed it. Like you said, Joe, this is kind of just a lot of storytelling, but Bret Hart doing a really good job of slowly setting up the fans for his turn. You could hear, as Vince pointed out, as he continues to bitch and moan and kind of tell The Undertaker, too bad, I'm fucking taking this title shot. The crowd is starting to sour on him, and he's pissed off, and I fucking love it. The commercial was very much billionaire Ted vibes coming off of it, but I did look up to find a WrestleMania 13 hockey jersey that was going for $69.99 then. The only one I could find was going for $1,492.
Shoo.
Jeez.
The denim jacket, which was $100, so $30 more than the hockey jersey, could be found for $625 though. So the hockey jersey is the winner here.
Yeah, the WWF fucking loved their denim jackets in the mid-90s.
Yeah. And apparently there were so many of them that it's less than half the cost of a hockey jersey.
All right, well, let's keep it going. We came back to the ring to see Rocky coming down the entryway, Rocky Maivia, to join commentary for our next match. The Sultan, with Bob Backlund and the Iron Sheik, defeats Mike Bell by submission in 59 seconds. Ryan, Mike Bell, was he a jobber of the week already?
He was. Mike Bell was our jobber back on the January 2nd, 1995 episode. And if you remember, Mike Bell is the guy who ends up getting fired as a jobber from the WWF because he gets in a real fight with Perry Saturn when he comes in.
Yeah.
Nice reminder.
Thank you, Ryan. This match, I guess, in preparation for Rocky to defend the Intercontinental title against the Sultan at WrestleMania. I'm sure that's going to be a championship-level match. Rocky did a great job on commentary here, especially selling reactions to the Sultan's moves in the ring. I mean, what he was saying was kind of slow, and you could tell that he was just trying to consciously make sure that he was saying the right thing. He wasn't letting it flow like he would later on, but I mean, he did a perfectly fine job with what he was saying, but his facial expressions while watching the match, to me, were much more entertaining because he's still very animated here, and he was making wincing faces and impressed faces while he was watching. And that's really it. Sultan points at Rocky while applying a one-handed camel clutch to get the victory. That scene ends with the Sultan and Rocky staring each other down at ringside. Rocky tells the Sultan that is the people's belt, and he can't have it. But then out of nowhere, Tony Atlas was apparently allowed to cross the crowd barrier and keep everybody separated. Vince claims that there's just a lot of anticipation for this title matchup. Sure. And that's it for this one. I don't know what else to say other than this kind of fits with this trend so far tonight of throwing shit together and hoping it comes out all right at WrestleMania. Ryan, what did you think of this?
Boy, oh boy, was Mike Bell a jobber here. His tights show it, his actions show it, his physique shows it. I mean, everything shows how big of a job Mike is about to do here. And this is one of the shortest matches we've seen. 30 seconds into it, camel clutch, and he's tapping. The Rock, I even wonder, like, why even bring Rocky out here? He was out here for such a short amount of time that it almost seems like a waste. We did get to hear the people's belt, as you pointed out, so great to hear that. But this didn't do too much to pique my interest in their match at WrestleMania too much, though, I gotta say.
Yeah, when Rocky comes out to join commentary, I got pretty excited because we know what The Rock is going to become later. But to me, he was kind of quiet, but I did notice the facial expressions, Bartlett, like you mentioned, and we get a little bit of The Rock there, but he is really far away from getting there for sure. In a way, this was kind of lazy booking to have Rocky out here doing commentary for what was going to be a squash match. I mean, it was 59 seconds or whatever?
Yeah, yep. Not even the full minute.
I do not care about this Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania at all, and that is a damn shame.
Yeah, that's really, that's my takeaway from this is, and I'm not saying anybody's doing this intentionally, but now they're beyond devaluing the title. They're to the point of starting to devalue the man holding the title. And I don't know, this, like you said, Joe, I mean, he's far away from where he'll be. But this is almost in a way kind of exposing him a little bit. Like, he didn't do terribly, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a teaser, just a taint teaser to let Rocky dip his toes in, get a little experience. All right. Well, guys, the moment we've all been waiting for. Vince McMahon himself, surprise, gets up in the ring to announce Shawn Michaels. As Shawn comes down to the ring, Shawn was moving pretty well as he zigzagged back and forth across the entrance ramp to work the crowd. Shawn needed no assistance climbing the ring stairs or stepping through the ropes to get in the ring. Vince McMahon was grinning and giggling like a schoolgirl the whole time Shawn was comfortably moving around the ring to pop the crowd. Once things got started, Shawn seemed slightly intoxicated. So that's an extra layer there, saying that smile that he lost was in San Antonio. He found it. I guess that must have been the real problem.
He found the way to pack it up and bring it along with him on the road.
Yeah. I could have sworn this whole time that the problem was the career-ending injury, but I guess it's just that smile in San Antonio. Shawn calls himself the world's most emotional wrestler, which gets a guffaw from Vince. Vince does bring it back to the knee, though. There will be no bait and switch here. They make jokes about President Bill Clinton hurting his knee instead of talking seriously. The most we get is that Shawn is going to visit Dr. James Andrews and hope to be back in the ring within the next couple months. Fucker. Shawn had a bone to pick with Vince McMahon, though. He was irritated that WrestleMania is a week away and nobody had called Shawn Michaels to invite him. I'm resisting not punching my desk right now. This cocksucker. Shawn let us know that he would be joining commentary during the championship match, which makes Vince blush uncontrollably. And there was a little more after that. But frankly, I was pretty fucking disgusted by this whole segment. Every aspect of it. The way that he's behaving, the way that he's just not injured, obviously. I mean, we knew he wasn't, but, the shit about a week away from WrestleMania, nobody bothered to call him. Well, because you had a fucking career-ending injury, you sack of shit. All right, I'm just going to keep... I've never disliked Shawn Michaels as much as I did in this fucking interview. And I've always found Shawn Michaels to be somewhat insufferable. I mean, I respect the talent, but he was never a character or gimmick that I was able to get behind, and this just is fucking disgusting. I can't stand this shit. Ryan, this felt like it went on forever for me, like it was just one continuous slap across the face. What did you think about it?
That's kind of what it felt like, especially knowing what we know. It's just he's up here laughing and chucking it up with Vince there as they make fun of the whole situation. Bret Hart has to be backstage just punching fucking lockers.
Yeah.
The part where Shawn Michaels starts talking about all of his get well cards, does he have no shame? He's sitting there thanking all the fans for his get well cards. Does he not feel shitty at all about his bogus fucking knee injury? I mean, I'm guessing not, but he's going to check up with Dr. Andrews next week. And for what? We all know it's a goddamn hoax. Sad shit. And like you, Bartlett, just kind of pisses you off because watching it as a fan, knowing what he did and how he lied to just get out of dropping the title, it just makes you angry. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, especially like knowing what we know now. But even then, if I was watching this is the most piece of shit interview that I've ever seen or heard. And both of these guys are complete dickheads.
Yeah.
To me, Vince makes me want to vomit more than Shawn.
Yeah.
Because Vince is the boss. He's the guy calling the shots here.
He's the one rubber stamping all this.
Right. As a wrestling fan, I fucking love Shawn Michaels. I like him a lot. And also, I believe in second chances. I have a lot of respect for Shawn Michaels now for saying, he says it. I was an asshole back then, and that's great. But like this is fucking cringy shit to watch. Just the faces that Vince is making during this whole thing, the fact that these two assholes colluded to fucking make this shit up. Like, I still feel that this was all, like, Vince was in on this whole fucking thing. Lost my smile bullshit. But they act like he wasn't, that, Shawn just told them that night that he was dropping the title. Bullshit. They fucking worked this shit out and they knew what they were doing. And this is basically the end product of that. Like, fuck everyone. And it's just really fucking hard to watch.
Yeah. I don't have too much to add to any of this. It's just, I don't know. And Joe, to be fair, you're absolutely right. Everybody deserves second chances. And it's great that he's not a dickhead now.
Well, he owns up to being a dickhead too.
Yeah,
that's the thing. He doesn't deny any of it. He says, yeah, I was an asshole. But man, for Vince to just let all that happen, that's just, you have no control.
Let's keep going here. There's a few more things to talk about here before the end of the night, one of which is our next match. The British Bulldog with Owen Hart defeats Vader with Mankind and Paul Bearer by disqualification in 8 minutes to retain the WWF European Championship. I love Owen helping the Bulldog hold up the European belt. I know we keep talking about the ongoing taint tickle that is the tag team champs, but sometimes it doesn't chafe as much as others, and it's little things like that I really enjoy. It's a little Owen putting his flavor on things. We got the news here that Mankind and Vader will be taking on the Bulldog and Owen for the tag titles at WrestleMania. First time we're hearing that. Better late than never, I guess, for a WrestleMania match card. I was trying to think about a way to put a positive spin on this match because I really wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't impressive from the start, but I thought of this. I like seeing somebody that makes the Bulldog look fast. The Bulldog is a fast wrestler and can be, but he seems to be more of, the power type. He does the slower power moves a lot, but Vader makes him look fast as hell, and that was enjoying to watch. The Bulldog pulling off a vertical suplex with Vader up in the air was impressive. And I also noticed that the crowd signs were starting to get wild out there. It's really starting to ramp up. There was one that said WWF, but the W's were drawn to look like a pair of boobies. Like 2 pairs of boobies up there with nipples. Something else I noticed was how much time Vader spent on his back in this match. I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but it felt like every time Vader got to his feet, the Bulldog was putting him right back down again. I don't think I've seen a match where Vader spent this much time on his back. Mankind interfered to draw the DQ, which brought in Owen, who traded some great-looking punches with Mankind. And that was pretty much it. Joe, this felt like another match thrown together at the last minute to attempt to set up a WrestleMania match. What did you think of it?
It's a situation where you don't really want either guy to win for storytelling purposes. It's sort of a predictable Mankind interference situation. Yeah. So I wasn't caring about this match very much because, like I said, it was just kind of predictable. But the one thing that I was impressed with was Bulldog getting his signature suplex on Vader and holding him up in the air was quite impressive. I mean, Vader was giving no assistance there at all to get that 450 pounds up, and that was nice.
Yeah, I agree. The match was a typical Vader match where he's not going to come off all that great. But I did think the Bulldog did. As we all mentioned, the vertical suplex, that looked fantastic. And there was another good spot, too, where Vader comes running into the corner to splash Bulldog, and Bulldog catches him and then walks him out to the middle of the ring and slams him. That was another really good way to display the Bulldog strength here. But for the most part, a very forgettable match that, like you said, Bartlett, just kind of thrown together to set something up for WrestleMania. We get the predictable ending with Mankind coming in. Mankind, Owen, and the Bulldog, using the urn, and that kicked it up a little bit, mainly just because of Owen and Bulldog. What they did maybe made me slightly interested in this tag match, but again, little too late,
Yeah. Well, something that has been just right so far, in my opinion, is Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock is going to come out and join commentary for our next match. Billy Gunn defeats Aaron Ferguson by submission in 2 minutes. Aaron Ferguson looked like shit. Absolute
Did you have
shit.
to look his name up? Because I didn't remember ever hearing his name.
I have his name typed in, so that means they had it on the graphic.
All right. I must have
trouble.
I must have glanced down and missed it.
Yeah. The little burn barrel Raw is War graphic. It almost looks like it's out of Donkey Kong Country or something.
Yeah.
I was thinking Duke Nukem, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it bears repeating. Aaron Ferguson looks like shit in this. Ken Shamrock, on the other hand, he looked happy as hell to be there. He was just happier than a pig in shit. He did pretty well on commentary, too. He sounded very real and very genuine in his happiness to be there in kind of a simple kind of way. In the match, Billy Gunn used an abdominal stretch. How's about that? Haven't seen one of those in a while. And then wound up applying a kind of arm bar to get the submission and the victory. Billy Gunn ended up coming out to commentary and grabbing a mic to jaw at Ken Shamrock afterwards, and then ended up inviting Ken up into the ring to prove how tough he is. Ken Shamrock says he won't be backing down to this chump, and got in the ring. I loved this. Ken Shamrock looked great squaring up, even in his street clothes, and immediately took Billy Gunn down in an armbar before letting Billy back up again. Billy wanted to try again, and this one ended with the ankle lock, popularized in the 90s by Ken Shamrock before Kurt Angle started using it. And let me just say here, because of Ken Shamrock, the ankle lock is my favorite submission hold of all time. Anytime I've ever created a submission wrestler on any WWE video game, they always have the ankle lock as a finisher. Billy is a sore loser. He tries to go after Ken with a chair and slinks away with his tail between his legs. Things keep moving, but we have to pause here. I didn't give two shits about the match in the ring here, but what happened afterwards had me popping my ass off. Ryan, what did you think of this match and its aftermath?
Man, another amazing jobber. I didn't catch his name. And after the entrance, I feel like they went out of their way to not say his name. Like at one point, Ken even brings up Billy going against his opponent in the ring here. Like he making sure to not say this poor jobber's name. And I couldn't do him for Jobber of the Week because there's just zero information about this guy. He has a total of 9 matches, all of them for the WWF. They're sprinkled between 1993 and 97.
Jesus.
And this is the last time he wrestles. He lost every single one of them. I could only imagine he's a stagehand of some sort that they call out when they're shorthanded. But sadly, I had no business magazine to fall back on to get any additional information this week. So, no, he's no jobber. And there's nothing about this match. He just loses. And he's here to be such a big jobber that there's only room for 2 people here, so he's sacrificing himself for Shamrock. He's being such a worthless wrestler
Jeez.
to try and put Shamrock over, and it works. Shamrock looks great at the end here. He makes Billy look like a chump twice. They're really doing a good job of putting Ken over here.
Yeah.
And way to go, Ferguson, putting Ken over.
Oh, man. So something weird here. I did not really like the stuff with Ken Shamrock after this match. Yeah, and I'm not trying to persuade you guys. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But to me, it looked a little bit too fake to me. And Ken Shamrock is a man who doesn't need to prove anything.
Right.
You know, being at the UFC level, I know UFC was not nearly as popular as it got to be later, but I would have rather seen Billy just kind of run away, do the chicken shit heel type thing. But I don't know. I mean, again, Ken Shamrock doesn't need to prove anything to me. And I mean, just look at him, for Christ's sake. I mean,
but like you say, I'm not sure at this point how many people knew who he actually was. You know what I mean? Like, I think they do have to build him up. We now know who Ken Shamrock is, sure. But I think the average fan back in 97, they maybe heard of the UFC, but that might be as much as they know about the UFC.
Yeah, and that's on commentary to kind of tell us that. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't necessarily hate it, but I just thought it looked a little bit too fake for me.
Well, I'll just make a note here. Joe fucking hates Ken Shamrock.
No, it was more Billy, I think.
We're going to send a letter to Ken, let him know.
Because when you have this like outsider celebrity type person, it's all about who they're working with.
Yeah.
And to me, I think Billy just made it look a little bit too fake, like too set up and fake. Or maybe have Billy go outside and maybe knock the headset off his head or something. You know what I mean? Like, not just, hey, let's go square up in the ring.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. That just looked a little bit too staged.
Well, to each his own. We'll make sure and send that letter to Ken Shamrock whenever we're sending our letters to Shawn Michaels.
This man at this address thinks you're a piece of shit.
Says you're a pussy.
Says he wants to square up with you in his driveway.
He's been tough talking you on the internet, Kenny. All right. Back in the arena here, as Billy Gunn had been walking up the ramp to exit the ring area, Stone Cold Steve Austin was up on the Titantron, which drew a nice crowd pop. Austin shit talks Ken Shamrock, calling Shamrock overrated and a big piece of trash, also getting a great crowd pop there. Austin says, Bret Hart on his best day can't lace my boots, and I popped hard on that. It was delivered perfectly. Just really all around, I thought this was a fantastic promo. Very Stone Cold promo. That ended and went to Sid, who was backstage, master and ruler of the world, blah blah, typical Sid promo there. Back in the ring, the big blue cage was set up and ready. Vince McMahon said you can cut the anticipation with a knife. And on that note, we will pause so I can ask you guys just briefly, Ryan first, what did you think of Austin's promo and then Sid's little promo as well?
Austin, cuts a great promo as he's been doing pretty religiously at this point. So no surprise there. And no surprise with Sid. We get a typical Sid promo. Doesn't make much sense. Lots of screaming. But the one thing I did like is them showing the cage being erected. That's a sight I always love seeing for these cage matches. I don't know what it is about it. It just makes it feel special to me.
Stone Cold Steve Austin talking shit on Ken Shamrock, that does work for me, brother. I did enjoy that. Austin also calls Vince a jackass again, which again, just so appropriate, 100% accurate, perfect. And yeah, I don't have much to say about Sid. This was just a Sycho Sid cookie cutter promo for sure.
All right, well, guys, that is going to take us into our final match of the night. Sycho Sid defeats Bret the Hitman Hart in 7 minutes and 40 seconds in a steel cage match to retain the WWF Championship. Sid and his vest were drenched in oil. My God. I'll just get this out of the way up front. Much like Ryan with Royal Rumble style matches, steel cage matches are one of my least favorite match types, so this was handicapped from the start for me, so I just wanted to get that out there. With that being said, though, Bret, he looked great pounding Sid into the corner at the start of this match. And we found out that Stone Cold Steve Austin was backstage watching this match on a monitor. And I sat watching this for a while. I didn't want to be too rough on it because there were plenty of things that I disliked, but I was trying to give it a fair shake. The biggest thought in my mind was that this was in no way getting me excited for WrestleMania, which is a week away, by the way. Even when Austin came down to keep Sid from escaping the cage, trying to ensure that Bret has the title for their submission match, that didn't even bump up my interest very much. Sid was shaky getting Bret up in a powerbomb. That was honestly a little concerning. And following the powerbomb, when Sid tried to climb out, Austin climbed up to try to attack Sid to keep Sid in the ring. That lasted a lot longer than I thought it should, especially once Bret Hart got up there on the cage too, all three of them in the corner. But then even The Undertaker came out of nowhere, coming down to get in the mix and strike at everyone he could. All four of these guys were clustered in the corner. It eventually got to the point where all four of them were just kind of like hanging there, waiting for one to fall off to where they're supposed to go. After some time, Austin got knocked down. Bret Hart was able to get Sid into a great-looking superplex there into the ring. The Undertaker and Austin were fighting at the outside, and just as Sid was climbing out of the ring in one corner, Bret was exiting through the doorway in the opposite corner. The Undertaker slammed the door on Bret, knocking Bret back into the ring and giving Sid the assist, however involuntary, and the victory. There's more material after this, but we have to pause here so we can talk about this match. Joe, what did you think about our main event here?
Well, I'm kind of with you on cage matches. I've never been a huge fan of them. I think it's hard to see, number one, especially with the newer style cages. And the slow climb out just always looks so fake to me. Yep. I kind of feel the same way with ladder matches, but I don't know. Those I feel are a little bit different. But the other thing with cage matches is the guy who is on the mat is laying there motionless, and then all of a sudden they get up to, climb up the cage after the guy who's climbing. I don't know. It's just something that I never liked about them.
My biggest problem is the door. If there's a fucking door on the cage,
why would you not just run out?
Why ever use the cage to climb out? Yeah.
Right.
You just, open the door and let me climb out. Worthless. Render the cage worthless.
Yeah. But I have to say that when Stone Cold Steve Austin and Sid are up there, they're fighting at the top of the cage. That is good use of the cage. If there's guys that are doing something a little bit different, I can get behind that. And I thought that looked pretty good. And Austin took a little bit of a nasty fall off that cage too. And remember, he's got that knee injury. So that was a little scary. But, the other good thing about this is so Bret Hart has beef with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he now has beef with The Undertaker. Mm-hmm. So, it's really setting up Bret Hart for some pretty good stuff here moving forward.
And I said earlier that I always loved the look of the cage being erected, but that is where my love for these cage matches kind of end. There's something to be said about just the anticipation of them building it, but they very rarely live up to that.
Yeah.
And this kind of was the same. At the beginning, Bret Hart, he did a good job. And even Sid, he picks up Bret Hart and starts slamming him into the cage. That's fine. To me, the biggest problem with all of this interruption is one of the main purposes of a cage is supposed to be to keep all interference out. Like, that's supposed to be the point of the cage. And this match had nothing but interruptions. Nothing but people stopping it from going forward as planned. So this match, if it did anything, shows why the standard cage needs to die and why the Hell in the Cell will be born. Are we going to see another standard cage match for a while after this one? Because we're going to get Hell in the Cell very soon. It comes 97, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, once that comes, it renders the standard cage match worthless because it is.
Yeah.
I can't say, even with all the star power involved here, that I enjoyed what was done here.
Yeah, that's where I fall with it. Like Joe, like you said, the slow climbing, and it really exposes a lot of it. It feels like it's kind of impossible to tell an effective story in a cage, to really suspend that disbelief, no matter what you're doing. All right. Well, like I said, there's a segment to end this, which is something that we haven't been getting lately. It starts off with WWF Rewind, brought to us by Karate Fighters. The Rewind got rewound back about a minute and a half to the end of the match that we just came away from. After that, Vince McMahon was in the ring to find out Bret Hart's thoughts on what just happened, asking Bret about being frustrated, which was apparently the wrong thing to ask Bret. Bret shoves Vince McMahon halfway across the ring, putting Vince on his ass, and shouts into the microphone, "Frustrated isn't the goddamn word for it," and I fucking popped. My God, did I pop all over the place for that. Bret then yells, "This is bullshit. Everyone screws me, and nobody goddamn cares about it." Bret goes off. Bret takes the Lord's name in vain multiple times, much like Brian Dennehy in Rambo. God damn it. Laying out the GD bombs all over the place. But then, up on the Titantron, Austin responds to this and just starts laying into Bret. Bret calls Austin a loser. This is what I was talking about last week with the debut of the Titantron. We now have ways for people to interact, to perpetuate that story in live, real time that don't necessarily have to be in the ring together. This was great shit. Bret and Austin just wind up talking over each other, and Bret ultimately calls out Austin. But then Sid comes down, making sure to get the word shit in on the entryway. Then The Undertaker, who says nothing, thankfully, who Bret launches himself at. That looked great. And then Austin comes out, and we end up with Austin and Bret at the outside, Sid and Undertaker in the ring, everyone trying to get some. Vince used what breath he had left to yell, "This is not a conspiracy," repeatedly. The officials come out. Bret ends up hitting Pat Patterson, which causes Vince McMahon to further lose his mind. That son of a...
That was so great.
The Undertaker and Sid end up in a double choke while Austin and Bret were back to slugging it out. And then Shawn Michaels came out, who had no business being there.
No, yeah, that actually makes sense and is true this time. Yes, no business.
I don't think that was planned. I think he just decided to walk on out.
I think he just wanted to piss off Bret Hart.
Yeah. I mean, really, he shouldn't have been there because of his injury. I mean, he shouldn't be exercising like that. But Shawn was able to saunter down the entryway casually. He picked up a very large, heavy, random piece of the cage there with no apparent discomfort. Then he climbed up into the ring. Again, no discomfort. Casually jumped out of the ring, and then jumped back in carrying a chair. And with Austin and Bret fighting on the ramp, we faded to black. You know, I can't say that any of that got me excited for WrestleMania, but business did pick up there at the end. Joe, what did you think about the way Raw ended tonight?
Well, I thought everything about this was amazing, other than the Shawn Michaels thing, but we're just going to pretend that never happened, because that's what we like to do here. Everything else was great, and I actually remember all of this, like it was yesterday, and for personal reasons. So we were, 14 when this happened?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that would have made my brother 9 at the time, and we shared a bedroom, and we watched Monday Night Raw every Monday, and my dad used to record Nitro, and we would watch Nitro the next day. And we're watching Nitro, and my dad asked me if we watched Monday Night Raw, and I said, yeah. He's like, I'm not sure your brother should keep watching Raw if they're going to go in that direction. I'm not sure it's appropriate for a 9-year-old. So, two great things there is my dad's like kind of predicting the Attitude Era, and also it was a moment where it's like, it's too late for you, but don't let your brother watch this.
Don't let him get corrupted.
Yeah, go watch it in the basement or somewhere. Just don't let him get corrupted. So yeah, I remember this, like this to me is Attitude Era launched, because this is not typical Bret Hart behavior at all. And this was not bleeped out. None of it was edited at all. So pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I remember this too, mostly because of the Bret Hart swearing part. That is what really sticks out to me. And I remember watching it going, holy shit, Bret Hart's out here fucking cussing people out and then shoves Vince McMahon and Vince McMahon is just absolutely taken. I mean, he is pissed off after that. Vince's face is beautiful. I love just about everything about this, even though if you really want to, split hairs here, it's just a continuation of the fight at the end of the cage match, but separating it from the cage match and making it its own segment did it a lot of service, I thought. Not just Bret Hart really laying heavy into the turn here. I mean, he is just off the handle and pissed off, and I fucking love it. When he shoved Pat Patterson and Vince goes, that son of a... popped my ass off. Yeah, this is what Raw needed. We needed this for the last couple weeks. This type of intensity building up to WrestleMania, and they're living up to the Raw is War moniker, because this was war at the end.
Yeah, for the record, I don't disagree with anything either of you have said here. I liked all of this, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. It's only tangentially related to WrestleMania, just by coincidence almost. And, this is our go-home show. I don't know. I keep coming back to that.
I forgot to add in my recap, fuck Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, Thank you for that. I'm very happy to have that on the record. All right, well, as I said, our episode's over, so let's take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, why don't you go first?
As much as I loved that final segment, I almost gave it to it, but I have to give the highlight to jobber Aaron Ferguson for sacrificing his body and name for Kent Shamrock to get over.
Wow.
So, highlight to him.
Man.
Cheers to you, Aaron Ferguson.
Somebody create a memorial for that man.
Lowlight, the mini match shit, just absolute circus shit. It's really hard to believe that even back in 97, this was acceptable shit.
Yeah, for my highlight, I'm going with the final segment here. I think it did do a pretty good job of setting up WrestleMania because everybody remembers the double turn, and Bret Hart is now a heel. I mean, this is heel behavior, so to me, that was a highlight. And low light for me, it's easy. It's that disgusting Shawn Michaels interview with Vince McMahon.
All right. Well, highlight for me, Shamrock applying the ankle lock. I loved it. Unashamedly loved it.
You only love it because Aaron Ferguson allowed it.
Well, that's true. That is true. My low lights, while you both make very convincing arguments, although that midget match, I'm just going to pretend like that never happened.
Well, that should make it a low light then.
Shawn Michaels is a worthy contender here, but I had to end up going with just the way that we're not building to WrestleMania here, guys. And I know I keep on harping on it, but this has just been fucked. This has been fucked for like a month. Joe, you said it best. The road to WrestleMania starts at Royal Rumble, and it's just been a shit show. And this is the final stage of the shit show.
The only thing I will say is there was an attempt made in this episode to set us up for WrestleMania, but
a week.
But yeah, a little too late. A
week before the event.
But what's crazy is this whole thing basically sets up what would be like the biggest time in wrestling ever. Yeah. This is going to set up Stone Cold Steve Austin's run and, Bret Hart as a heel.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that, but I'm not shelling out money for the pay-per-view either. Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around March 17th, 1997 for us?
Yes, Jim Ross's favorite wrestler of all time, Dr. Death, Steve Williams. Top star for All Japan in 1997 right now. He was unfortunately arrested on March 17th at the Laredo, Texas International Airport on drug possession charges.
Yeesh.
This is now the third time Williams has been caught with drugs in his possession.
Is that gas or?
I don't know. Meltzer didn't really get into those details, so I'm not sure what it was. But the sad part is Williams had been in serious negotiations with the WWF the week prior to this, so I'm sure those will stop.
He is going to come in at some point here.
Yeah.
Well, Here's someone who's coming in at some point that you're going to get real excited about. Del Wilkes, better known as the Patriot,
Good Lord.
has been reportedly signed by the WWF.
I wonder if that means the one jobber I talked about a few months ago, I wonder if he dropped out, the guy who would use the Patriot name without asking.
Oh, yeah.
I forget who it was, though.
Speaking of signings, Dennis Rodman, I mentioned him last week, going to WCW. He officially appeared on WCW Uncensored, which aired on March 16th. His desire to sign with WCW was mainly due to working with Hulk Hogan. Dave Meltzer called this particular Monday Night Raw one of the hottest Raws in a while. He said, in particular, noting the announcers' enthusiasm was way up for this show. They sold both the WrestleMania pay-per-view and the angles at hand great, and the Bret Hart turn was tremendously executed. Here's a name, Jesse James. What the hell happened to him, right?
Yeah.
He's been out of action as he was suspended for 6 weeks, and we're not sure why he was suspended. Maybe we'll find out more.
Popped on a marijuana test.
Probably. Speaking of failing tests, Jake Roberts was fired again.
We found him behind the dumpster smoking crack.
Actually, no. He took a rental car and disappeared for 2 days.
Well,
so they fired him.
I think
got to the dumpster. Right?
I think those two things are related. Yeah.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know. Mankind had an MRI done this week on he's having a back issue, and the good news is, much like Shawn Michaels, he does not need surgery. He will be fine, but he will probably get a few weeks off after WrestleMania.
Well, he's earned it.
Yes. And that is all.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most spectacular Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at WrestleMania 13 with matches featuring the new Blackjacks, the Sultan, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.